Welcome to the Work Truck Show here in 2018, and also to the demonstration that we're going to put on here. So this is all around some requirements that have been coming in, and also those that are coming up new for this year under FMVSS 111. And if you're not familiar with that acronym, FMVSS stands for Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. So there's a number of those that apply to different vehicles. 111 is the standard that is the traditional standard for mirrors. So these rear vision system requirements that you've probably been hearing a bit about have kind of a natural home there in 111. And so we're going to go through what we call the field of view demonstration here today. So field of view is one of the requirements that actually started coming into effect and phasing in last year. And then we're also going to get into one of the additional performance requirements that's coming into effect this year on top of that, called image size. So we'll go through a bit of both here. So for the standard itself for these new rear vision system requirements, this applies to vehicles with a GVWR of 10,000 pounds or less. So pickups, full-size vans, small vans, passenger cars, buses, school buses, 10,000 pounds and under are going to be subject to these new requirements. And so there's kind of three elements to the field of view test here. There's preparation of the vehicle itself, and we'll explain a little bit more about what the conceptual image is here when we get a little further in. But there's preparation for the test vehicle, preparation for this test area behind it, and then validating what you're seeing in the monitor. So what you have over here is a giant-sized version of the image that you'd have in the screen and the tag. So we've got a couple of different cameras here we're going to take you through these requirements with. But just imagine that this is what you'd see in your dash or in your inside rear view mirror. So for the test vehicle preparation for this field of view test, there's a part of that is really just to get the attitude of the vehicle in a standardized position. So there's at the tire pressure, you have to inflate the tires to the OEM pressure that's stated on the tire and loading information label. There's ballasting for people weight. So there's up to 5 seating positions that you have to ballast with weight. And it's 150 pounds in each one. So it's for the driver as well as up to 4 of the passenger seat locations. So you put 100 pounds in the seat and then 50 pounds in front of up to 4 passenger seats. And then the other part of the ballasting involves correcting for the fuel. So if you don't have a full tank of fuel, you would also correct for that by ballasting weight, approximately where the fuel tank is. So again, this is all about trying to standardize the stance of the vehicle in a loaded, lightly loaded condition, because the pitch of the vehicle makes a difference and what the camera can see. So again, that's part of the standardization of the way that test is put together. And then for preparing for the test area back here, you can see we have 7 of these cylinders. The 2 closest to the vehicle here have a vertical stripe on them, and the other 5 have a horizontal band. And the requirements for this are that you have to be able to see the full width of the stripe on the cylinders here. We'll cover that a little bit more in a minute. You have to be able to see the entirety of all these 5 rear objects. And these are all strategically positioned here. The standard requires that these cylinders closest to the vehicle are a foot back from the rear surface of the vehicle. So when you're preparing a test area, you can use a tarp like this. You can lay out a grid on the floor, whatever positions these objects in their correct locations that the standard requires. So these are a foot back, these are 10 feet back, and those are 20. And they're all 5 feet off of the vehicle center line. So part of the strategy with your test area is you want to have it aligned with a longitudinal center line of a vehicle. And then so our tarp here would help you true up this test area to the rear surface. And you could use plumb line or something like that to true it up against this red line that we've got. So that's all for aligning this. And there's each of these cylinders is 800 millimeters tall and 300 millimeters in diameters. And the stripes and the bands are 150 millimeters wide. So the theory behind the sizes of these are that they approximate the size of an average 18-month-old toddler. They're a lot quieter now. But that's the theory behind why these things are this size and why is it so specific around that. The 150 millimeters is to approximate the width of a toddler's head. So when you got your test area set up, your vehicle prepped, then you would go and try and validate the view that you've got in the monitor and the cab. And so what you want to see is you have to be able to see the width of the stripes here on these two closest cylinders. You don't have to see the whole stripe. You don't have to see the entire cylinder, but you have to see edge to edge somewhere along its height. At least this one's easier. So you have to be able to see side to side somewhere along the height of that for both of these cylinders. And then you have to be able to see the entirety of all of the other five. And if you had some of those reverse trajectory lines here to help you back up and not bump into stuff, those overlay lines have to not cover up any of the required test objects. So once you're all set up for the test, if you happen to have a 150-pound person in the shop that can sit in the driver's seat, they can kind of pull double duty for you. They can ballast that seat and then also take a picture to show what am I seeing in that monitor. And you can save that for your own records to capture that. So in the view here in the left monitor, we've got our upper camera. We've got one in a lower position here, and you can see that we see both of the objects. This one we see everything here. So in the far monitor, we can see all of everything. Over here, again, we don't see the entirety of the cylinder, but we can see both sides. Now, if you happen to have a situation where, let's say you have the cylinder kind of like this, so you don't see the whole width of it, you can rotate. And so if you're trying to position a camera to meet your field of view requirements, you can rotate it. It doesn't have, this stripe doesn't have to be in a particular spot. You can turn it, and if you can see it, you can't move it closer or anything like that, but you can rotate it on its axis. And if you can get it in a position where you can see that, then you're good. So that's the field of view portion of it. So these requirements started last May for vehicles that were part of the OEMs have been phasing this in for a couple of years now. But starting last May, the OEMs have been required to have 40% of their production brought into compliance with just the field of view requirement here. So part of the way and a lot of the complexity of this requirements, the way it's been rolling out. So basically we've been recommending that if you got a new vehicle that's coming into your shop that involves you doing something that would affect the camera, that you want to be able to have it leave the shop, you have to assume that it's going to be part of the OEM's phase-in. And that's the period we're still in now. So that 40% of the vehicles that they're putting out that meet these requirements, those need to stay in compliance after you're done. The good news in all this is that May 1st of this year, all of the confusion kind of stops because everything has to meet not only field of view, but some other requirements here that we're going to get into as well. There's another 6 performance requirements that kick in May 1st of this year. So the full effect of the standard comes in May 1st of this year. So as field of view, another thing we're going to talk about here in a minute called image size. And then there's another 5 performance requirements too, but they're more related to the actuation of the monitor, turning the image on and off when it's supposed to be, how fast it comes on. There's durability requirements for those. And so those are kind of in and of themselves more of a system function. Image size and field of view are directly affected by the position of the camera. And that's something that we're going to get into here in a second. And so the concept that we have here we're calling our Franken-truck, kind of a mashup of some different body types. So what we'll do is we're going to move the camera around a little bit to positions that actually exist on some of these bodies and show, what you end up seeing. For this image size requirement that's kicking in, that requires that it's not an easy thing. You can't just look at it and say, yeah, I need it, or no, I don't. The image size is actually a measurement of the width of these far 3 cylinders. So these 3 have to have a measurement, and the measurement process for this in the standard is very complex. If you're really interested in it, come see us afterwards. We'll take you through it. Your head will hurt, and you'll wish you didn't go ask me about it. But that's how it requires some very specialized equipment to do it with. So you're basically measuring the width of these from a picture, and the measurement is it's in arc minutes. So each of these have to appear 3 arc minutes in width, and the average of all those has to be 5 arc minutes in width. Or, well, how do I know if I'm going to meet these image size requirements? So the OEMs start seeing more representations like the shaded area that we've got on here. And these would be kind of a zone where the OEM would provide, or your technology supplier, if you're putting your own camera monitor system in a vehicle, you'd want to have some kind of representation like this that says, like relative to the ground, can I have a quick and dirty way to go measure and see, is there a spot that exists represented by the shaded area where I can put a camera and have the capability of meeting these image size requirements. So you can, you can have a good field of view, but the whole idea behind the image size is that if the camera kind of squishes what these far cylinders look like, you can have a great field of view, but a squished, distorted set of these objects in the back. It makes it harder for your eye to perceive it. So even though you got it in your image, in your monitor, your brain doesn't necessarily get the message from your eyes that there's something back there. So that's why there are these minimum requirements set up for it. But again, the measurement process is pretty obscure. So we've been challenging the OEMs to provide information like the shaded area to show, it's a big geometry problem. So if I put a camera somewhere in this area that they've qualified to show that you'd be capable of meeting image size there, then now I've got a tool I can work with in the shop. So that's the whole idea with this. And I'm going to have our lovely assistant Bob help out here. So we're going to move the camera around. So our upper view, we've got fixed, and we've got a great field of view there. We've got several different bodies represented in Franken-truck here. So we got a van body, we've got a flatbed, and a service body. And so between these, I don't have anywhere up here I can mount something on a flatbed. And I don't have anything over here that I can mount on the service side. So that's where this shaded area comes in handy, is now I have some dimensions I can work with and see on the body that I'm putting on this vehicle, whether I'm putting it on an incomplete vehicle or I'm doing a box removal and replacing the camera on the new body, where can I put that? Obviously the OEMs in a position where they put them on their own vehicles, they're going to have to meet these requirements too, and that's certainly a position you can use as well. So you take the camera off and you put it back in the same spot that the OEMs did, then you've got a pretty good set of logic to say it ought to perform the same way that it did from the people who qualified it in the first place. But for our shaded area here, so if we can map out these dimensions from information from the OEMs for their camera, then so here I've got this right over in the boundary of my shaded area, and now I can check my field of view and see what I see. So if we just take a look, I've got both of my cylinders, the rear cylinders here. I can see the full width of the stripe, and I can see all 5 of the objects back here, and I'm in my shaded area. So I've got some good logic, so that's a valid spot to stick that thing to meet both the field of view and the image size. So put it on the outboard one. So now we're in the outer corner here, and we're a little bit marginal on the cylinder back here, but I'm still good. I can see all of the other test objects, so that would be another okay area, except I'm not in my shaded area anymore. So I got a good field of view, but I'm not in a spot where dimensionally I can tie back to some dimensions the OEM has given me to say that I can meet image size. So that's how you kind of want to approach this. Unless you have your own ability to run that test that NTEA has in the standard, this would be the next best thing that we know of to try and come to good judgment for how to meet image size as well. Yes. Put it over here. We'll put in a couple other spots here too. Okay, so now we've got it in a spot. I'm just over marginally in my image size, so I'm still in a good range for my image size, but I lost my cylinder back here. It's not even in view. So even though I might be in my shaded area, it doesn't guarantee that I'm going to be able to see all of my test objects. So that would be a So now if I bring it a little bit more inboard, so now I've got my view back. So I'm in my shaded area. I've got it on a spot on the truck where it's not going to get karate chopped off. So here for a flatbed, I've got it below the deck, the top of the deck, or I can try some other position where it might be in a better spot. I check my field of view and in my shaded area, so I'm good. Now doing that. So here again, if I wanted to try another position, I'm pretty marginal here on my other cylinder. I can try to rotate it, but I'm really marginal, if at all. So that'd probably not be a spot I'd want to try and tuck that. So again, this is the approach that we think is the best way to go about doing this. And the field of view, and we did it right here, and you can look at it. I can see that pretty instantly after I do all the other stuff for prepping the vehicle and everything too. That I can look at and validate easily. It's the more obscure stuff with the image size that I need to have some other tools to work with. But both of these tests are actually done together in the standard. They're done at the same time. But this is another approach to trying to accomplish the same thing without trying to do this in a lab. So with that, if we're probably at a point here where we can take some questions and fill in some holes with whatever you might have on this. So again, these requirements are coming into full effect May 1st of this year for everything 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating and down.